Hello, people. It may be times of plague, but I'm still finishing books. And I just finished, well, I've actually finished this thing on Wednesday. Today's Saturday. To Gettysburg and Beyond, the parallel lives of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain and Edward Porter Alexander. Chamberlain is from the north. Alexander is from the south. Chamberlain, it just covers their lives. It actually covers their ancestors, the cities that they grew up in, what those cities, what kind of economies they had. They weren't enthralling characters, and neither was the description of their hometowns, and I don't know. It just wasn't a great book. I'm still working my way through my dad's Civil War things. I had a note on the cover here that says, I've been finished with this book for days, but it just seems odd to be doing a normal video in a time of plague. And it does seem to be odd. I don't have a whole lot of notes in here. I just have a few. It goes on and on about Maine, and to me, it's just insanity that they would go there and trap out all the animals and chop down the forest. But that's what they did. And they talk about, I don't know, the homes that they grew up in. They even talk about the books that are in those homes. And Thoreau Henry David Thoreau, once visited the area and wrote of it, The Maine Woods. And that's the title of the book that he wrote, The Maine Woods. And it's a book that I'm unaware of. And then there's a little footnote on the bottom here. And the footnote calls it Easy Thoreau. And I know what they mean, because I've tried, I've read Thoreau, and Thoreau is not an easy read. Alexander, and he's the southerner, he goes to West Point. Chamberlain never goes to West Point. They both end up being officers. Chamberlain kind of goes to a religious school. And it's odd how many people throughout history, so many people that I run into in my books, that, they have a career choice of going into the priesthood or going into the military. Like those things are very similar, but they're not. Alexander graduates third in his class, and I think there was like 28 of them there. But it put me in mind of, because I've read about George Custer quite a bit, and Custer graduated last in his class. Custer fucked around, had lots of fun. Custer, as a young man, reminds me of Bismarck as a young man, actually. Bismarck, I think, was even crazier. The book is 345 pages. Took me over a week to read it. And I've got here the bottom of 57, top of 58. Let's see what the hell that was. This is about Jefferson Davis. This is before the war starts. Davis had come to Maine to recuperate from an illness. Bowdoin, that's the religious college that Chamberlain goes to, and Chamberlain ends up running the place, and he's a teacher there for a little while, and I don't know, a fucking religious college, Bowdoin received him cordially, though he made no effort to conceal his immoderate views on slavery and secession. He moved on from Maine to Boston, where in a speech at Faneuil Hall, he offered a blunt and unapologetic defense of the peculiar institution. Who, Davis asked on October 11th, gave abolitionists the right to call slavery a sin? By what standard do they measure it? Not the Constitution. The Constitution recognizes property in many forms. Not the Bible. That justifies it. Is it in the cause of Christianity? It cannot be, for servitude is the only agency through which Christianity has reached the Negro race. 2 weeks later, William Seward delivered his irrepressible conflict speech laying it down that the United States sooner or later would be all slave or all free. Uh, most countries, probably all countries, made slavery illegal way before we did. And anybody that you still see people that say slaves were happy and they enjoyed working on the plantations. No, as the Union troops moved through the South, uh, escaped slaves flocked to the troops just because they had heard the rumor that they were going to free them. They dropped everything and grabbed their kids and flocked to the troops wherever the Union troops were. There's not much notes in here at all. Shoddy, the word shoddy, Shoddy. Shoddy was actually a material. They had a hard time supplying the armies with uniforms and shoes and everything. And so they came up with this new material that they made stuff out of, and they called it shoddy. And guess what? The material fell apart very quickly, so that's why we still use that word shoddy. After some battle, they see the northern lights for like 3 days in Virginia. So thank you, electricity, and thank you, all the idiots that have outdoor lighting, because I've never seen the northern lights in my entire life, even at my cabin. And we've seen them a little bit up there, but nothing like I should be able to see them. There's draft riots in New York where they blame it on the Irish. The Irish burn some places down, and the Irish take it out on blacks. Alexander, the war even ends, and they follow these guys' career up until their deaths after the war. And Alexander, for a time, thinks that he's being courted by Paraguay, because apparently Brazil and Paraguay are having a war at this time, a war that I am completely ignorant of. I know nothing about it. Brazil, you wouldn't think, would need to add to their territory, but they do. They end up beating Paraguay, and they had like 50,000 square miles, something like that. Alexander also, big surprise, gets courted and courts the people from the KKK. He has friends that are in the KKK. I don't know. It's not the end of the war wasn't the end of the bad times for black people in the United States. It kind of sucked all over again, just in a different way. So I'm done with it. It wasn't a great book. I don't know. Maybe it's me, because I don't seem to have enjoyed a book in a long time. I'm about 120 pages into another book right now, and I'm sort of enjoying this one. Maybe it's because this author that I'm reading now has a little bit of a sense of humor, and I don't know. Probably in a week from now, a few days, 4 days, 4 or 5 days, I'll be done with the next book, and we'll make another video. Stay safe, everybody. Thanks.